Good morning from my smartphone to yours. I'm casting love from the Serious Joy Raining Garden Studio in Costa Mesa, California. And this is your Thursday. Namaste today. Good morning and namaste and welcome to Namaste Today. I'm your host and spiritual life coach, Christopher Witecki. My mission is to stand in my heart and help others into theirs. And this webisode is one of my first the new year. It's for Thursday, January 7th, 2016. And today the great human walk has progressed to step 16, Capricorn. Hello, my friends. So great to be back. I was traveling, and forgive me, it took a little longer than I had anticipated to kind of get back and on the air. One of the things is the incredible amount of weather patterns going on in the nation. If you don't know, I was out in Houston and in Austin, Texas, and I want to do a shout out to all the great people and fans that I saw out there, especially on New Year's Eve. It was really great and a really wonderful surprise. So namaste, y'all. And I'm going to show off this great t-shirt that I got here from the South, but I'll just leave Jesus popping up in the frame for most of the show. But first, let's start with today's vibe. Today I'm predicting cloudy and quite serious today. That's due to a number of things. For one, we're in Capricorn. That's the most serious sign there is in all of the zodiac, the most serious time of the year. Seriously. And in this time, it's time to get serious about our life. Well, today we're creeping up to a decision the next 24 hours. In fact, it's the new moon light cast day on Saturday. Today is the cloudy day of inner speculation, and tomorrow, Friday, is going to be the commitment day. So it's kind of like a 3-day countdown to getting serious about your life. And today you might be feeling that seriously. Now, we are also in Mercury retrograde. While I was gone, Mercury officially went backwards. So the I think state of awareness is literally moving backwards in the sky. What that means is we are cloudy because we are introverted, we are rethinking, and what we are rethinking is what we want to commit to. Between now and January 25th, as Mercury kind of goes backwards in the high degrees of Capricorn, we will be moving forward into the high degrees of Capricorn. And so this is what I call the classic scissor effect that happens with the Sun and Mercury. What it comes down to in your personal life is you're going to get really introverted and serious because you're likely going to make some sort of decision about your life to change, a commitment or some sort of business change or some sort of control change. All the above counts in Capricorn. So today, as Mercury is in retrograde, it's actually at step 0 Aquarius, so we're just holding space for the right to change our mind. And I argue in the next 2 days, we may change our mind or we may finally commit to something we already thought about. So today we're cloudy and we're introverted. Now Venus is really where a lot of the action is. Yesterday was Love Fest Day. I'm sorry I couldn't be there personally for you. Happy Love Fest Day, though. I do love you. Venus in Sagittarius means that we are accepting and receiving the Kool-Aid or the new belief structure, some sort of new belief. And that's what's the fundament of what's underneath these changes, that Americans and human beings worldwide have started to believe something different that happened in Sagittarius. So today we are meditating, we are Mercury retrograding on whether or not we should decide and commit based on these new beliefs. That's my opinion. Now the moon is in Sagittarius also, and it's why we're feeling so serious today. The moon is going to cross over Sirius Saturn, and that means you're likely going to get very serious about making a decision around your feelings. And that's what it comes down to. It all boils down to how you feel. You can say this and you can talk that and you can act on that, but it all comes down to whether or not you feel like it or not. So today it's really about being cloudy and serious about whether you really feel you're behind your beliefs. And if you are behind your beliefs, then it looks like you're going to have to make some sort of decision here in the next coming days. The last thing I will point out here in our first segment is Mars, which is our classic ego or dumbass. And today the dumbass is at step 2 Scorpio, which means that we are ready to act on how we feel about our boundaries. So people are ready to act. If you were a person that has normally kind of like taunted some like a little kitten into a corner, I got to warn you, Mars at step 2 Scorpio means that kitten is going to strike out, okay? People are ready to act and maybe overreact on their personal boundaries. So, and that is because I think people are really anxious and over anxious to get started with the new control, get started with the new philosophy. So be advised, that makes everyone overly sensitive to personal space, maybe overly sensitive to hearing the wrong thing at work, really overly sensitive to everything, okay? It's like a pissed off Scorpio in the morning without coffee, if you want an analogy. So, your joy question, you choose to accept it today, is to go with what flows. That's really what it comes down to, is step 16, is what flows easiest. So, you can talk all day, you can theorize all night, but at the end of the day, it either works or doesn't work. So I argue go with what flows today and take note of what flows, because it's probably part of the equation of what you're going to commit to. All right, let's move on to our next segment, which I fondly call today's topic. Today's topic is deciding what you feel, a master wizard's trick. And I say this because of all my study in manifestation. I've been studying manifestation for about 25 years now. My father brought it up when I was a kid about manifesting reality, and so it's been a topic. And emotion was always the one that was most difficult, and I want to share with you a master wizard's trick. And that is that one must decide how they feel at the end of the day. One must decide how they feel. And you might go, why? Or you might go, for what reason? Before we do that, let me pose today's 5 o'clock question. Today's 5 o'clock question is, in life, do you decide what you feel, or do you accept how you feel? In life, do you decide how you feel, or do you accept how you feel? And the follow-up question is, if that's the case, what is your decision about how you feel about your childhood? Classic psychologist question. How do you feel about your childhood, right? So I'll answer these questions and kind of kick off today's topic. Do I decide how I feel, or do I accept? Well, this all comes from my own personal study. In my own life, I have what we call lunar eclipse in Cancer, and so I'm a complete retard, forgive the term to all retarded people out there, but I'm with you. When it comes to emotion, I feel completely helpless. I need help, and I'm really slow at emotion. It's taken me so long to learn this. And my particular degree of my lunar eclipse is 28 Cancer, which means I have to learn how to decide how I feel. It's also a master step. But what I learned growing up was I used to think that I had to accept the feelings that I had. So whenever emotion came in, I kind of dealt with it like it was a ton of bricks hitting me. Like I was just going to have to, persevere through it. Kind of like Hanukkah, and only living in a cave and just get through this horrible experience and somehow come through the end. And I always dealt with emotion as feeling like I had to accept how I felt. But then when I started to study astrology and I started studying my lunar eclipse, I realized that Cancers, namely my mother, they all the time are deciding how they feel. They just changed their decision. Okay? So like mom would be feeling good about dad in the morning, and then she would decide around noon that she's not feeling good about dad. And it's not that emotion is, that we're out of control with our emotion. It's that Cancers and everyone do at some point very quietly make a decision about how they feel, and that is actually our control. That we actually decide how we feel. So I'll give you an example. When I was a kid, the boys, me and my 3 brothers, oh, Bella, here's something. They would always, we would start roughhousing in the house, and lo and behold, one of us would get kicked in the special private parts. Okay, one of the 3 of us, like by accident, and all of our karate chopping. Oh! And we'd actually sit there for a minute and decide, did this hurt or not? Like you just sit there and kind of wait and feel it out. Did this hurt or not? And even if it did hurt, we all wanted to decide that it didn't. You wanted to make that decision that it didn't hurt, and it almost hurt less if you decided it didn't hurt. I bring it up because it's one of the weird examples of life where emotion is thrown in our face, and we have to sit there and decide, does this hurt or not? Well, I believe as a manifester of life that it's important for us to decide how we feel. And today in Capricorn, this is what we're getting to. Where Capricorn often is thought of as logic and control and power structures and business. But what people don't realize is at the end of the day, the person's going to make a call on how they feel. They won't admit that, but it's true. You'll decide if you should give them the loan because they feel like a good guy or they don't feel like a good guy, or you'll decide if you can get into business with because you feel like it's good or you don't feel like it's good. And people will all say when you ask them, oh, they make this much a year and this, but in reality, it's how you feel. Now, what people really don't discuss, even though I think that's common knowledge that people make decisions on how they feel, is people really don't think about the moment that they made that decision about how they feel. That's what I think slips around people, and that's what I want to bring to the highlight in today's topic. That you may be aware or not, but you decide quietly how you feel about things, and that means you have the power to change how you feel about things. And a lot of times, people get stuck in reality or get stuck in marriages or get stuck in bad jobs because they have decided to keep feeling that way inside. They decided they're going to feel that way. Therefore, they decided they're going to make that decision in their work. Therefore. The root issue is how you decide how you feel. If you get, kicked in the privates by a coworker or one of your little brothers playing karate, you can decide if this is going to hurt or not hurt. And I think that when you make that decision of how it feels, you're setting yourself up for your power or not power in society. That's the secret moment. That's the wizard's trick. And I don't think we should lie to ourselves. Just to close this little today's topic, it's like if somebody hurts you, I don't think you can say, I decide it doesn't hurt. Because that's lying, and that turns into cancer and all sorts of crazy spiritual disease later, or disease later, when you lie to yourself about how you feel. So it's not about lying to yourself. But I think you decide, that really hurt, and I really want that not to hurt, so you make a second decision, like it hurts now, and I don't want it to hurt in the future, and you let yourself kind of move to that decision gracefully. That's been my experience with emotion. So don't deny how you feel, but also don't skip over and not decide how you feel in the moment, because that's when your emotions are, in fact, a runaway train. All right. So I hope you make good decisions. Now, with the follow-up question, I bring up this last little point with, what did you decide about your childhood? When I talk to a lot of clients in personal readings, I ask them about their childhood, and they have this decision of what their childhood was. I only bring it up because I once thought my childhood was rotten, and then later I decided my childhood was as educational, and I'm still deciding what my childhood was every day. But in astrology, your childhood is your fourth house, and so it's your foundation. And so if you're struggling out there, being out of power in your life and being out of touch with yourself, it might be because you still decided that your childhood was nothing but pain, and you haven't decided that it was a great lesson. And just making that decision might free you. All right, let's move on to today's Zen Den. And welcome to the Zen Den. This is actually my second take, just so you know, because I accidentally recorded the first one without sound. Typical Mercury retrograde mistake. So I'm going to go into my guides, even though I already know what they're going to say, and I want to do today's affirmation. So let's first take 3 breaths. Okay, and today's affirmation is designed to kind of help you stay on track with really what's most important, and that is, I decide to focus on the flow and let the blocks go. And so it is. I decide to focus on the flow and let the blocks go. And that's actually based on step 16 of Capricorn, and that's where we are today, is at step 16, and that's where we can start. Coming here on my pre-drawn board here. The sun is at step 16, and what that means is that we're really going to go with what flows. The 6 is I receive, and so flow is the ability to receive. And today what we want to do is open up to what flows. This is after the sun crossed over Pluto in the last 2 days. and that was the letting go of what does not work, letting old rules die, old lifestyles die, old concepts die. I think everything that's dying is based on this a little earlier, which is Venus, Saturn, and the moon today in Sagittarius, what we feel and what we believe. So today we're going with what flows, we're letting the old things die, and what flows is very much based on what we feel, the moon, that what we believe. So today is about really meditating on how you feel, what you believe, what your heart really believes, and this kind of goes to today's topic of you can believe this, you can read the facts of that, but if you ain't feeling it, it ain't happening. And if it's not flowing, it ain't happening. So sometimes we are surprised by where we find ourselves with what flows. Sometimes we're surprised to be in a situation that works when our mind was so certain that it wouldn't, right? And today is that day of meditation of what really flows and what really works and going with that. Now, what my guides were talking about when I went in earlier in the first take was Jupiter. Jupiter's at step 23, which adds to a 5, and that is I think. And remember, Mercury is retrograde. So what my guides were saying was that a lot of the rethinking of this Mercury retrograde isn't going to be power structures or who's in charge or the things that my logical mind assumed when I've been doing the astrology. They told me that the rethinking is going to be the reality. That everyone spent, several months from August till December of last year assuming that reality was going to be this. But then at the very end of the game, at the end of last year, we all kind of decided that we believe in different things, that we're making new decisions, that our tastes are changing. And so this crystallized vision of reality that you were so certain of is probably not going to happen. And if you watch my show, I told you earlier, make a plan, but make a plan to change your plans, because it probably won't turn out that way. So what my guides are sharing with on this rainy day is that a lot of the rethinking of the retrograde, of Mercury retrograde, which is at step 0 of Aquarius, as you can see the rain falling down here, is actually the rethinking of what reality will be. The letting go of the details that didn't work and allowing your mind to go to new places and think differently. Now Mars is at step 2, Scorpio, and what that means is that our ego, our masculine energy, Mars, is really sensitive about how we feel, step 2. And so people, yourself and everyone, will probably be overly defensive, overly charged. It's like when you're a kid and you scream at your brother, no! Everyone's going to be a little overly tense and electric because they're ready to come to the aid of where the boundaries need to be. And with Mercury retrograde, people are not hearing each other very well. It's literally storming here in California. All right, so I think that's a good way to wrap this up. Plus, the rain's starting to fall here. If you're curious on this shirt, this is my souvenir from Texas. Y'all need Jesus. And so that was a subconscious little thing for you. I thought it was adorable. I had to take it home. And I want to do a shout out one more time to all the people in Texas that I saw for the holidays. And a thank you to, of course, my viewing audience who was patient with me as we got up and running. It is raining here in California, so I'm not quite sure where I'll be in the next episode, but I will be dry, that's for sure. All right, my friends, don't forget to check out the Energy to Angels series. I've released 2 more episodes with Mary Beth Murphy. You can be learning about angels in this Mercury retrograde. And I'll see you in 24 hours tomorrow. Remember, I love you, and live, love, be.